I'm about to show you the process that we use to split test our cold email campaigns to get 5% response rates or more, so you can scale your brand by booking more meetings with cold email. I'm also going to show you a little bit of a cheat code here that we use to make this process a lot easier and incredibly simple with minimal waste. Now, this process applies to nearly every type of business, no matter the niche or vertical that you're operating in, whether you're doing 1K a month in revenue or doing 7 to 8 figures in annual revenue, like some of our best clients are doing. We've already tested this process thousands of times at this point, and it's been shown to 3, 4, or even 5x some of our cold email campaigns results, and make this process incredibly scalable as we get out over a horizon of 6 to 12 to 18 months and 24 months beyond in working with our clients. But before starting, we first need to understand a few key important steps in this process. I want to start off by saying that split testing and A/B testing in general begins long before you put thoughts onto paper around how you're going to go out and engage those target personas. We first want to start off by split testing the actual audiences that we're going to engage with. And so whenever a client first comes to BuzzLead and starts working with us, we often ask them, who are some of your best clients right now that always retain, that always look for upsell opportunities, and that tell your friends and colleagues about their service without even asking, right? So they'll often come back to us with a name that they have in mind. In which case, we want to run a lookalike campaign where we essentially package up that existing case study and then sell it to that target audience. So that's the first campaign that we like to run here. I'm going to show you actively how we do that in a tool called Clay to find some really high intent audiences that we can run personalized outreach to. So this is Clay. It is an AI platform that embeds all sorts of different tools that makes it incredibly scalable for lead generation and outreach. If you haven't checked it out before, also go ahead and just drop a link down in my description of this video here so you can kind of check it out. So the first step here is just going on to Clay, and you just want to create a new table. We have an Ocean.io API. We find it's a lot cheaper having the actual account itself versus that natively on Clay. And essentially what you'll do here is you'll type in the best fit client that you're looking for that you want a ton more of. In this case, let's just refer to BuzzLead. We'll then say the countries that we also want it to be focused in as well. The United States in this case. You can do certain company sizes. Let's say we're doing 2 to 10, 11 to 50, and 51 to 200, just to give us some idea. If you had any keywords that you were focused on here as well, that's where you pipe that in to ensure that you have that sufficient coverage. And then lastly, we want to include that minimum lookalike score. In most cases here, 0.8 will be pretty good. If you want it to get really high intent, you want to do 0.85. Now from there, it'll start bringing in some additional lead list and all sorts of different businesses here. For the sake of this video, I'm going to jump over into another table that we've already ran so you can see the output. So this is a lookalike campaign for C3 Presents. It's one of our clients that's going out and engaging entertainment brands. Essentially what we did is we plugged in C3 Presents and it brought in all sorts of 3,900, different businesses that look like C3 Presents. We can see it brought in the name, the domain, the company description, the LinkedIn page, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all this good stuff. Got it tabled by the revenue as well as industry keywords and whatnot. So this is incredibly helpful. Now, for the purpose of the scalability of our outreach, because we're going to engage multiple target personas, we actually ran some personalization techniques natively within this table. Not typically do we do this, but we knew that we were going to be engaging at least 2 to 3 people within each business. So that's why we did that here. So this is great, right? And so from here, we're going to want to add actions because we have the companies now, but we need to actually find the people that we're going to engage with. So we'll find people at these companies. So we're going to be plugging in that Clay table. It's going to pull from the column there, and this will be scraping LinkedIn. And this is where you just pipe in relevant different job titles that you're looking for. Let's just say we're looking for an account executive. Preview people. So brought in a few here, and I brought in actually 695. We would then just import this into a new table to run some lookalike campaigns. For the sake of your guys' time, I'm going to jump over there and kind of show you what that looks like in real time. Great. So these are the people from the C3 Presents lookalike. We've just piped that in directly here. It ultimately ended up yielding around 6,200 leads. I threw in a few more titles for you guys to see here, but essentially that will pipe over directly into the sheet. It'll also pull in the company description and the relevant information there, which will be helpful. And then as you see, the personalization that I had initially wrote on the previous sheet is actually going to come in over here, which just makes it a little bit more scalable on our outreach efforts. From here, we like to run a waterfall enrichment process. And essentially what a waterfall enrichment process is it'll go and it'll check one database. We typically start off with our cheapest data provider here, and then it'll run through. If it doesn't hit that database, it'll go through a few others. As you can see here, it's around like 6 of them that will ultimately end up utilizing. And so what that looks like is just an enrichment process natively within Clay, and you can select the data providers that you want to utilize. Lead Magic is the one that we have. It's just the cheapest. And then as you can see, their drop contact is going to be next. And then we'll go through that process there. We have a Find Email account with a ton of credits on there. We just load it up anytime we get it and just buy in bulk. That'll also, they also double verify the leads over at Find Email. So that's incredibly helpful. And then from there, we'll run a million verifier last check to ensure that the emails that we're getting are actually validated. Essentially what million verifier does is it'll actually send an email to that client to make sure that it bounces back as read. If it captures that as it was positive, then we're good to go and we'll start sending there. So you do a GET request there. If you're familiar with APIs, we'll then post the API key that's natively there. This is our API key that we use to plug in the email specific flow that we're looking to pull from. So that'll be the final column here. And then the timeout on the amount of requests that we want it to run. So 10, and that'll publish with good. And then if so good, we want it to push into the email retrieval sheet. If it's bad, then we want that to run again via bounce ban. And bounce ban is going to be a very similar setup. It's going to be a GET request. That's going to be the endpoint that we're going to run against. And then here's going to be the query string. So bounce ban will be our last step there. And if so, right, then awesome. We'll publish it over to the sheet. And if not, we'll return it as void. And what we were finding at the time of running this campaign was that there was a big deliverability challenge with delivering to Outlook. And so we actually had to find the ESP that we were looking for. We're utilizing a tool called Email Guard, and they have an active API there for their email host lookup tool. And so that's what you can check out here. That's the body that we're utilizing. Then here's the authorization request, and that should get you into a pretty good spot. Then you can just codify off of that. You download that, and then you can just filter. We're just going after custom mail service providers in Google in this outreach campaign. So that's how you find really highly relevant lookalike audiences through a tool like Clay and Ocean, and then a combination of running that through the waterfall enrichment, and finally bounce ban and million verifier to ensure that you're going to end up in the inbox every time. Now, oftentimes when clients come to us, outside of running that lookalike campaign, they also want to test out a bunch of different verticals that they're operating in. For example, we worked with Bob over at Life 360. And he was previously going B2C with this age deceleration program. And what ultimately happened was it just lacked the scalability that he needed to really grow the business. And so he came to Nick and I and said, I want to take this B2B. I want to run some partner channel plays. So he had 3 different verticals that he wanted to go after. Nick and I brought in another 4 as well. So we ran out about 7 plays for Bob. And within 42 days, we were able to quickly refine that to 3 verticals that were just absolutely printing meetings. And he was able to generate $120,000 in monthly recurring revenue through these partner channels. And so the strategy with these is very similar. Essentially, we can either source lists with tools like Apollo, and you're going through there and you're throwing your filters on the industry, the contact persona you want to engage with, revenue, headcount, keywords, all that good stuff, right? It's rather simplistic to understand. You can also do that natively within Clay here, or you can do that within LinkedIn Sales Navigator. After logging into LinkedIn and migrating over to Sales Nav, you need to have their membership. I think it's like $96 a month or something like that. Rather nominal if you're going to use the tool, often enough to pull lead lists at least 3 to 4 times a month. Essentially, you'll just bounce over here. You'll go to account filters, and this is where you can filter by the revenue, size, headcount, industry, all that good stuff. Now, let's just do a real quick one here, for example, 20 to 1 million. So you can collect these lead lists, and then you can come back over to Clay. I just like utilizing Clay for a database here for pulling resources just because it's incredibly scalable and easy. And it has the ability to work across a ton of different database providers. And so you can find companies, you can find people, and what you can do is you can apply the search filters here once again, and this will be referencing external databases as well as LinkedIn, or you can just pipe in that external list, search the amount of leads that you want. You can cross-reference that again through LinkedIn. As you can see, we got 6 million results, right? But you could limit this for the amount that you want to see, because it's going to run a credit for each row, and then you just import that and run it into a sheet. And so, as I mentioned, A/B testing starts long before you start script writing. You want to run those lookalike campaigns for highly relevant audiences, which is a great play. Strongly recommend that. And then you can also run those industry-specific plays, calling out those unique target personas and the pain points and challenges that they're running into. This is by far the best method that we'll use for finding and qualifying these leads in our campaigns. But now that we have them, it's time to test and find our best angles for our campaign. And with that, I'm going to take you guys into a high-performing campaign that we're running for one of our clients, where we included a bunch of different script variants so you can see what that looks like in real time. So this is Haulage HQ. They're a localized marketing and advertising agency catering to trash haul away companies and then junk removal organizations as well. Essentially, we were able to contact over 7,700 leads, let's call it here for rounding up. Around 4% of those replied, and then 58 positive replies. We've been running this for, at the time, let's call it 2.5 months. Now, I followed a very similar script writing process that I do for all of our clients here. And I want to take you into the analytics first so you can see how that breaks down. So you can see we're about 200 sends on each of these email campaigns. We were initially seeing some really early indicators that there were some ones that are working out incredibly well, 14% reply rate, or excuse me, 14 replies, to some that really weren't doing too well. Now, historically, what I recommend to our clients is we start optimizing the campaign around 200 to 300 sends. If it gets over 400, we're just gonna be burning leads. But when looking at this campaign, we can clearly see that O is the script that is absolutely working the best there. There's a close second here with M, right? And there's some other ones that are doing relatively well as well. So there's something that's sticking out to this market. So let's jump into the scripts and see how this bakes out. So here are all the scripts that we turned off in our A/B testing simply because they weren't working. Now, what that script writing process looks like is that first section there is we're calling out a unique pain point being felt by the audience. The second one is using that is packaging our offer in the form of a question to capture attention. And then this third part is a case study, a very similar format. And then lastly is a low friction CTA. So those are a really typical campaign scripts that we like to include just because it gives us a baseline of how this audience is going to engage. You see variant B is a very similar process. Variant C is another one, and then variant D as well as E. So we also spin tested here, utilizing a complement as part of the outreach. Didn't work out nearly as well. All these different variants here that we're testing out the intro itself, calling out the different pain points felt by those audiences, and then packaging up those offers in different ways, as well as CTAs. So we're utilizing pain point intros, and then we're using complement intros. We're packaging up the offer into a statement or question, and including CTAs and other times not. Now, what we find is then you get into scripts like these, and it's a little bit more straightforward, right? We call it a known pain point. We talk around how we work with organizations like them. The important thing here is we work with, we partner with, we collaborate with. We don't like to use the word help. Some reason, I think it's psychology wise, when script writing, when people hear the word help, it just kind of triggers a resistance level. And so we like to use the word partner or collaborate with. And then we reference a case study there with a low friction CTA, or actually that was going for booking 8 times to chat a little bit more. A similar process here. We call it a pain point that we know from experience of working with others. We go into our offer here, exactly how we help. And then we present a case study and position the case study as a CTA to see if they want to deliver similar results. Now, some of the ones that started doing really, really well is what we like to call a skip the shit and pitch. As you just go in directly into what you've done for a case study, but formulate that into a question. And so what that sounds like is if we can increase your lead flow by 2.7x in 3 months, just like we did for Texas Junkers, would that be interesting? And then you just further elaborate on the case study in the PS section. It's a simple thing where they're like, yes, or interested, or tell me more. And then you follow up with a short little statement of sure thing. You elaborate on your offer a little bit more. You expand on that case study, and then you just have the CTA there to be directly booking a call. This script has done incredibly well. We package this script up a little bit different later on here, but I'll show you guys that in a second. It's the best script that we ran for this entire campaign, bar none. So another similar process here is we just go directly for the skip the shit and pitch, right? We're talking around 2xing their lead flow to their calendar. And then we bring in a case study here to further back up the proof that we can actually walk the walk and talk the talk. And then we have a low friction CTA there of let me know if you're interested for a quick call. A different format that we utilize here was actually just going in directly in with the offer of who we help and who we engage with. And then we expand a little bit more on what our actual business does and how we support this offer here with a low fraction CTA. And then lastly, this is the best script we ran for this campaign, and we'll always run these for this guys because it is working incredibly well until it doesn't. And essentially what that sounds like is if we could double or triple the lead flow to your junk removal business, we call it the specific industry here, and add 100,000 to 150K profit back to your business, just like we did for case study 1 and case study 2, would that be interesting? That's it. That script alone outperformed the next closest one by roughly around 120%. So keeping it really simple when engaging your audiences has worked incredibly well. Now, what we found is when we can simplify our scripts into 1 sentence or 2 sentences, those are the scripts that perform the best. And it's typically when engaging these blue collar businesses or service-based industries that are moving really quick and they just want the action of what you're going to be able to do for them or their output of what they can expect when engaging with your services. And it's a very similar format here, just another example. And we apply some case studies there. So that's how we're A/B testing, right? So you can see how the scripts flow. you have we start off with an A/B test of the traditional script, right? You call it the pain point they're engaging with. We package up our offer into a statement or a question, and then we have different CTAs in the form of a value-driven CTA or a call to action CTA of booking a meeting directly. We then break into other applications of selling directly, the output that we're going to be providing there and seeing exceeding results there. And then lastly, we don't have it in this campaign, but we often like to show the existing case study that we've done for other clients as well. Now, we just helped Texas junk luggers increase their lead flow by 2.7x in 3 months. Pretty confident we can do the same thing for you. Mind if I send over a little bit more information describing how? That script has worked out exceedingly well, and it's likely something that we're going to apply to this campaign as well. Now, behind every successful cold email campaign that we've run, there have been thousands of other email campaigns that we've run that have just been faced with constant rejection and fallen flat. But that's part of the process. That's given us all the information that we need to be incredibly successful and help our clients make over $8 million in combined revenue. And although split testing cold email campaigns is critical for your outbound structure and overall success in the go-to-market strategy, strategy really just won't be effective unless you understand how to craft your offer and the right cold email campaigns to go out and engage those target audiences. So watch this video here if you want to learn some more about the best cold email angles that we've ever tested so you can start signing more clients with cold email. Look forward to seeing you there.